Welcome to Things You Don't Know.
Today, we're talking about something that we actually record this podcast with all the time: computers. We're looking at how computers develop from mechanical calculating devices into machines small enough to fit inside phones, watches, cars, and household appliances.
Yeah, we'll discuss early calculating machines, the first electronic computers, the Oracle computer at Oak Ridge, which I was privileged to actually go see, miniaturization, binary information, computer interfaces, and data storage.
Early electronic computers filled whole rooms, consumed large amounts of electricity, and required teams of specialists. They were usually only available to governments, universities, military programs, and large businesses.
Now, the history of computing is not simply a story of machines becoming faster. No, it's also about making them smaller, more reliable, and less expensive, and easier for ordinary people to use.
You are so right on target.
People used calculating tools long before electronic computers existed. The abacus with beads moved along rods helped users represent numbers and perform arithmetic. It did not calculate automatically, but it demonstrated how a physical device could assist human reasoning.
During the 17th centuries, inventors developed mechanical calculators. Blaise Pascal's Pascaline used gears to perform addition and subtraction. Later machines became more advanced, although they remained limited to specific mathematical operations.
A major conceptual step came in the 19th century with Charles Babbage. His difference engine was designed to calculate and print mathematical tables. He later proposed the analytical engine, a much more ambitious machine.
The analytical engine was never completed as a full working computer, but its design included several features associated with modern computing. It had plans for a processing unit, memory, and instructions supplied through punch cards.
Ada Lovelace studied Babbage's design and wrote a detailed sequence of operations for the proposed machine. She also understood that a programmable machine might eventually work with symbols, music, and language, not only just numbers.
Yeah, that insight was important. Lovelace recognized that a machine could manipulate any information that could be translated into a suitable form. For that reason, she is often described as the first computer programmer. Amazing, huh? During
Yes.
the 20th century, computing moved from mechanical parts to electronic components. Calculations became much faster, but the first electronic computers were very, very large.
One of the best known examples was ENIAC, completed in 1945. It weighed about 30 tons at 60,000 pounds, folks, occupied a large room, and contained thousands of vacuum tubes.
ENIAC was developed to perform difficult numerical calculations, including work connected with military artillery tables. It could complete calculations far more quickly than teams working with paper and mechanical calculators.
The speed was impressive, but programming it was quite difficult. Operators often had to move cables, reset switches, and physically reconfigure parts of the machine before it could perform a different task.
That began to change with the development of the stored program concept. A stored program computer keeps both its instructions and its data in memory. New tasks can then be loaded without rebuilding or rewiring the machine.
EDVAC was closely associated with that development. The stored program approach became one of the foundations of modern computing because it allowed one machine to perform many different tasks simply by changing its software.
UNIVAC 1 took another step toward practical use. It was one of the first commercially produced computers in the United States and was used by government agencies and businesses also.
UNIVAC gained national attention in 1952 when it used early election returns to predict the outcome of the presidential election. The results surprised people who were still unfamiliar with the ability of computers to analyze large quantity of information quickly.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Now, another important early computer was Oracle, the Oak Ridge automatic computer and logical engine. It operated out of Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee and was used for demanding scientific calculations.
Oak Ridge had become a major center of scientific and nuclear research during and after World War II. Researchers needed faster ways to solve mathematical problems that could take people weeks or months to complete by hand.
Oracle was housed in a dedicated building designed around the machine's requirements. The structure had to provide room for the computer, its electrical systems, cooling equipment, operators, and maintenance staff. Just a brief note here, because I actually did see that and went inside the building. It was quite amazing.
I think that's pretty cool, Dr. Weaver, that you got to experience that. And that building is sometimes described as the Oracle Computer House. It offers a vivid example of how demanding early computers were. Today, a phone can be carried in one hand, but Oracle needed an entire structure and a staff of trained specialists.
And Chandler's size was only one difficulty. Vacuum tubes generated considerable heat and could fail frequently. Early computers required constant attention, substantial electrical power, and controlled operating conditions.
Despite those limitations, machines such as Oracle, ENIAC, EDVAC, and UNIVAC proved that electronic computers could support scientific research, military planning, government administration, and business analysis. Computers began to shrink when vacuum tubes were replaced by transistors. Vacuum tubes could control electrical signals, but they were large, fragile, power hungry, and hot.
Transistors perform similar switching and amplifying functions while being smaller, more reliable, and more energy efficient. Developed in the late 1940s, they gradually became central to electronic design.
Transistor-based computers were not only smaller, they were also more dependable too, because fewer components fail during operation. Lower power requirements also reduced the amount of heat engineers had to manage.
Yes, the next major advance was the integrated circuit, commonly called the microchip. Engineers could place multiple transistors and other electronic components onto a single piece of semiconductor material. To me, that's amazing.
It certainly is. Integrated circuits reduce the number of separate wires and connections inside a computer. That made machines smaller and lowered the number of possible points of failure.
The development of the microprocessor carried miniaturization further. The microprocessor places the computer's central processing unit, also known as the CPU, on a single chip. The CPU performs calculations, follows instructions, and coordinates many of the machine's activities.
Yes, and in 1971, Intel introduced the 4004, one of the first commercially available microprocessors. Its capabilities were modest by modern standards, but placing a processor on one chip helped open the way for calculators, personal computers, and many other compact devices.
As manufacturers learned to place more transistors on each chip, processing power increased while the physical size of the components decreased. This general trend is associated with Moore's law.
Now, Moore's law is not a law of physics. was an observation about the rapid growth in the number of transistors that could be placed on a chip. For decades, it described the semiconductor industry's remarkable pace of improvement.
Now I want to turn our attention now to personal and portable computers. Miniaturization changed who could use computers. By the 1970s and the 1980s, personal computers were entering homes, classrooms, and small offices.
Yeah, companies such as Apple, IBM, Commodore, and others helped move computing beyond government laboratories and large corporations. Individuals could now own and operate complete computer systems. And I remember having one back then in the
Oh, yes,
80s.
I had a Commodore and later an Apple. Personal computers were used for writing, accounting, education, games, record keeping, and programming. They gradually became general purpose tools rather than machines reserved only for specialized calculations.
Laptops made those tools portable. Tablets and smartphones went further by combining computing with cameras, telephones, navigation systems, music players, internet access, and video displays.
Many computers today are almost invisible. Cars contain computers that monitor engines, braking, navigation, and safety systems. Medical devices collect and process information about patients.
Factories use computers to control machinery and monitor production. Household appliances can adjust their operation based on temperature, time, movement, or other information received through a network.
Miniaturization, therefore, did more than make familiar computers smaller. It allowed computing to be built into devices that people may not think of as computers at all.
Most modern computers represent information using the binary system. Unlike the decimal system, which uses 10 digits, binary only uses two combinations of zeros and ones.
A single binary digit is called a bit. A bit represents two possible states, such as off and on, low and high voltage, or false and true.
That's right, Dr. Weaver. Individual bits are combined into larger patterns. This was actually always really fascinating to me, the bit byte deal. 8 bits form a byte. Those patterns can represent numbers, letters, colors, sound, measurements, instructions, and many other forms of information.
Text is stored using coding systems such as ASCII and Unicode. These systems assign numbers to letters, punctuation marks, symbols, and characters from many written languages.
Yes, that is a was a real big advance, the ASCII 2. Digital images are divided into pixels. Each pixel is represented by numbers describing properties such as color and brightness. Increasing the number of pixels can produce a more detailed image, although it also creates more data.
Digital sound is also converted into numbers. A recorded system measures a sound wave many times each second. Those measurements are stored as data and reconstructed during playback.
A computer does not experience a photograph, a song, or written paragraph the way a person does. It stores patterns of data that software interprets and presents in a recognizable form.
The principle is based on zeros and ones, but modern computers process enormous numbers of them. Even routine activities such as loading a web page or playing a video may involve billions of binary operations.
The ways people communicate with computers have changed along with the hardware. Early machines relied on switches, cables, punched cards, and printed results.
Command line interfaces later allowed users to type instructions. I well remember that. Command lines remain useful because they can provide precise control, especially for programmers and technical specialists.
Their disadvantage is that users must know the correct commands and syntax. Graphical user interfaces may computers more approachable by replacing many typed instructions with windows, icons, menus, buttons, and a pointer controlled by a mouse.
Yeah, graphical interfaces allowed people without programming experience to open files, move information, run programs, and adjust settings visually.
Touchscreens created a more direct form of interaction. People could tap, swipe, enlarge images, move objects, and type on a virtual keyboard without using a separate mouse.
Computers can now receive information through microphones, cameras, fingerprint readers, motion detectors, GPS receivers, and many other sensors.
Voice assistants and conversational systems allow users to give instructions in ordinary language. The computer analyzes the words, identifies likely meanings, and does a response or action.
These systems can recognize complex patterns, but human communication also depends on emotion, shared experience, cultural knowledge, and implied meaning. Computers may produce fluent responses without understanding communication in the same way that people do.
Computers also need ways to preserve information. Punched cards were an early storage method. Each card represented data through a pattern of holes, but large programs could require stacks or even boxes of cards.
Magnetic tape stored data as magnetic patterns on long strips of material. It could hold much more information than punch cards and became useful for backups and large collections of records.
Hard disk drives later became standard equipment. They store information on spinning magnetic platters while a moving read write head locates and changes the data.
Floppy disks provided removable storage and were widely used from the 1970s through the 1990s. They helped users transfer documents and programs between computers, although their capacity was extremely limited by current standards.
Optical discs, including CDs, DVDs, and Blu ray discs, use lasers to read stored patterns. They became common for music, movies, software, games, and backups.
Flash memory stores information electronically and does not require spinning disks. It is used in USB drives, memory cards, phones, cameras, and other portable devices.
Solid state drives, also known as SSDs, also use electronic memory because they have no spinning platters or moving read write heads. They are generally faster, quieter, and more resistant to physical shock than traditional hard drives are.
Cloud storage places files on remote servers connected to the internet. The term cloud can sound abstract, but the information is still stored on physical equipment inside data centers.
Cloud services allow users to access files from different devices and make sharing or backup easier. However, access depends on network availability, account security, and the policies of the company maintaining the servers. Let's see if we can wrap this up a little bit. Computers developed from mechanical calculators into electronic machines capable of processing enormous quantities of information.
Babbage and Lovelace helped to establish the concept of programmable machinery. ENIAC, EDVAC, UNIVAC, and Oracle demonstrated what electronic computing could accomplish.
Transistors, integrated circuits, and microprocessors transformed computers from room-sized systems into personal and portable devices. Binary coding allows those devices to represent text, images, sound, instructions, and video.
Interfaces developed from switches and punched cards to command lines, graphical displays, touchscreens, and spoken language.
Storage moved from cards and magnetic tape to hard drives, optical disc, flash memory, solid state drives, and remote data centers.
The computer that once required a dedicated building can now fit inside a pocket or even in the palm of your hand. Imagine that. And computing continues to spread into more areas of everyday life.
Yes, we could go on, but I want to thank you for listening to Things You Don't Know.
Please leave a like and a comment. And we hope you'll join us soon for the next episode.
Until then, take a closer look at the technology that works around you every day.